Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. Good morning to you. Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great morning on this sunny but cold day. It is, boy, it was chilly coming out this morning. Hope you're doing great and that there's goodness in your day. If you have an interest or haven't had a chance yet to join our texting service, I hope you'll do so. That it's up here on that we're rolling out a texting service. If you want to keep up with what's going on here at the church, we'll have an opportunity. You'll have an opportunity to do so. You can subscribe in, and we'll send you the occasional text to keep you up to date on what's coming up on the church calendar and all the great sorts of stuff. Um, if you're interested in that, just let us know. Oh, good morning. Hey, Karen, good morning to you. Hi, Jane. Hello, hello. Hi, Jamie. Yes, we do know what day it is. It's hump day. Thank you very much. Good morning, Jean. Glad you're here. Hope you're doing great. Hello, hello, everyone. Good morning to you. So, all right, let's get going this morning. It is the ninth day of April here at on this Wednesday at 11:11, and I'm glad you're a part of the journey. I hope that this day finds you well and good and warm, and as it is still chilly here in the early days of April. The there's a the popular series The Chosen is out there. And many of you may have watched it. I know many of you are fans of it. They really do some great work, kind of dramatizing and bringing a scripture to life. Um, and it's really they actually have a special one that's going on right now. That has been in theaters for a week or so. It the called it Chosen the Last Supper, which is brightly and well timed. It's the beginning of the fifth series, the fifth season of this program. So if you haven't caught it, it is basically a dramatization of the scriptures of Jesus's life. And so they come now in the fifth chapter to Holy Week and to the events of Holy Week. And this they have there's in theaters right now a dramatization of the Last Supper. It's done great at the box office, which is awesome to hear. And it's out there. It's even beat out Jason Statham's movie for so action adventure movie. So there's a lot of goodness in that. But and so if you get a chance to see it, I really encourage you. Um, but I wanted as is my way, kind of dig us a little deeper this morning in this notion of the title of the chosen. Why the chosen? Why did they? Because I think there's this way in which we can say, okay, well, Jesus went around and chose these disciples, right? Which is actually how much of the story begins. And so there's this way in if you go back all the way back to the first season, there's his call of Matthew, and there's call of the fishermen, and so there's this once of Jesus is going around like, I pick you, and I pick you, and like he's picking up a team for dodgeball or something. The big, and like you can, you know, you know how it goes. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. So that I don't think that's in the Bible. Jesus is out there kind of choosing these disciples, but but as he gets closer, we start to understand this in a different way. In the in the Gospel of John, where we get this great account of the Last Supper, Jesus says, "You did not choose me, but I chose you." Now the disciples' experience was very different than that. They feel like Jesus had maybe have encountered them, but they chose to follow Jesus, this notion of choosing really comes back to the Hebrew word of berit, which is this word of which means covenant. It's this covenantal word. There was the covenant that has come down again and again and again through God's people. God starts with a covenant with Noah, where the rainbow covenant, where he lives under where humanity comes to live under the protection of God, and that there's the Abraham covenant, where there'll be like the sands in the sea, the Moses covenant, where there's this path and this way in which to come and in relationship with God, the Davidic covenant, where you will be kings in the midst, that these covenants that God forms with humanity again and again. The reality of these covenants are not they're not covenants that humanity kind of went to the mountaintop and sat out with God, but that God came into humanity to seek with us. So when Jesus says this, "You did not choose me, I chose you," when the creators of the Chosen call their show The Chosen, it starts to look different, because it goes, I think, right to the illusion, right to the nature of how we think about our walk with God. Because often we're thinking about it in this way of like, all right, I need to choose to go to church. I need to choose to do the right thing. I need to choose to try and to perhaps endeavor to be better. I need to choose to be other than my more base instincts. That we think about the moral life of our walk with God is often this long, exhausting idea of choices we have to make, and like, okay, I choose not to eat all the brownies today, or whatever. We think about this way, but that's actually the opposite of reality. And not that we don't have to make these choices, but that the foundational nature of reality is that we were chosen to be brought into being. We were chosen to be loved in these ways again and again and again and again. That we were chosen to receive the chesed, this incredible love from God, and we were chosen to have that love abide with us. That it comes and lives with us. That it's this binding covenant, and all of this is wrapped up in this word berith, which, but. And to really understand what that means, you kind of got to go, I think, all the way back. You see, it is about this covenantal relationship with God. Now, we think about covenant, it's like, okay, God made a promise, and we make a promise, and that's kind of this legal contract that we have. But it's really more than that. And this word berith is actually, it's like a husbandry word. It actually has to do with cattle. We're going to do some weird stuff today. It's okay. Don't worry. It's not what we do every day. But we're going to go somewhere. Trust. I promise. And that it really has to do with the notion of fattened cattle. Now, what's significant about that? So there, we like today, we like to imagine that, there's the best cattle that we have are these, grass-fed, locally grown, organic beef cattle. Those are the best and most choice cuts. But actually, that's not really true in particularly not true in the ancient world, when calories and when deliciousness was actually much more rare and much more coveted and much more desirable. Now we're fighting our waistlines in terms of trying to keep the calories away. But for them, calories were life, and not only that, but so was the deliciousness of the cuts of meat. And so the fattened cattle were the ones that had been grain fed. So you're taking food that you could have made bread out of, you could have eaten, and you're giving it to cows. So to make the cow actually, more delicious, so that it actually was fattened. And so when we hear, the fattened calf is slaughtered for the returning celebration of the prodigal son, we have this understanding that there is this way. This is the most precious, the most delicious, these most yummy parts of our being and of being. And this is how covenants were formed. So when covenants were formed in the ancient world between parties, what would happen is that they would actually be cut into creation, because the covenant would be established, and then what would happen is the fatted cow would be brought out, and it would be cut, and it would be cut right down the middle. And so this was actually the ritual of how they would do this. There would be two sides of beef hanging, kind of like Rocky, in kind of training for his fight. There'd be these sides of beef hanging there, and the covenanting parties would stand between these two sides of beef, of the fatted calf, of the fatted cow, and they would sign and they would pledge that agreement with the idea. And then those sides, then they would go have a barbecue. Then they would have a meal together. That fatted calf would then be to celebrate the coming together of the covenant between these two parties. They would then rejoice in the meal together. But it was also spoke as a warning sign, because they stood between the two halves of the covenanted cows to know that if we broke covenant, they would end up like the fatted cow, like the fatted cattle, that they would they would end up being cut in half. Now, you can take that all literally and oh, that's grisly, but really it speaks to the and this is where I'm hoping we can land today, is that this is really the metaphysical reality of what this series that is kind of telling the story of Jesus in the world is bringing us, what our reality of knowing that you did not choose me, I chose you, that God came into the world to choose us again and again and again and again, and with the culmination of that in Christ, to come and stand and bring together and stand between the brokenness of the world, stand between these two halves that have been broken, between our own brokenness, between our own kind of understanding of head and heart, and our own rebellious heart, stand between our own natures for our selfishness, and our own natures to love one another and to love ourselves, our own natures between that, as the great Solzhenitsyn says, heaven and hell runs are both present in the world, and the line between them runs through the human heart. That this covenant, this brit, this injunction that of standing between the fatted cow is to invite us, to rescue us, to hold us, to sustain us, to bring us together in the beauty of covenant, that we may know the chesed love, we may know the great compassionate love of God, and that it may come and live with us in a banquet, which is why I think this little chosen series that is coming up, that what they decided to make a major motion picture of and put out in the theaters was not the crucifixion, it was not even the resurrection, it was that of Holy Thursday, that of the covenant coming together, that of breaking bread, even in the midst of betrayal, even in the midst of hardship, even in the midst of difficulty, to heal and hold the world together and to bring us into joy and love in abundance. You did not choose me, says Jesus. I chose you. And so the chosen are not just these cast of characters of Matthew and Peter and fishermen and those sorts. The chosen are not just the apostles and the saints. The chosen are not just the people of Israel. The chosen are you and I, being brought together, being healed, being standing in the midst of the brokenness of the world, and that brokenness becoming a banquet and a feast as we stand in it with Jesus the Christ. Friends, my hope for you is that you will feast in the banquet a little bit today. I mean, we can point to the brokenness of the world. There's no shortage of that right now. We can look at all the different ways that things are coming apart and they're breaking, and we've got all kinds of drama going on in town. We have the evil of all sorts of stuff working itself out, and yet our foundational reality has not and does not change. We stand with the fatted calf, with Jesus the Christ, who comes to take the brokenness of the world, the separation of the world, and bring it together in the great meal that heals us, that holds us, that brings us into love, and brings us into love that abides with us, that lives with us and in us, in the way that when we take in those elements, they become a part of our very selves. And friends, I know today is big and heady and kind of crazy, but it's my hope that you'll be able to stand on that reality a little bit today. You'll be able to stand in that promise as you look out and look at all the different ways that things have been chopped up and cut up and broken. But know that standing within them is you and Jesus the Christ, ready to break bread, ready to bring healing and wholeness and goodness and chesed love and an abiding love with you always. All right, peace and grace to you, my friends, and we'll pick it up tomorrow with another 11:11.